Let us begin meditation. I would invite all of you to sit with a straightened back and now gently close your eyes. Let us remind who we are. We are a group promoting compassion and practicing compassion, establishing ourselves with compassion and wisdom. That's who we are. Now take a deep breath. Let it go. Focus your mind on the middle of the forehead. Think deeply. May I be well. May I be happy, skillful, and peaceful. With each breath, you are cleaning your body. It calms your mind. Your body is getting well, healing. Your mind learns to let go. Your mind healed. That lead into happiness. We are establishing that skill. Promoting and being in peace. May I be well, happy, skillful, and peaceful. May no harm come to me. May no difficulties come to me. May no obstacles come to me. May I be free from anger. May I be free from anxiety, fear, or frustration. May I be well, happy, skillful, and peaceful. May I be well, happy, skillful, and peaceful. Just feel moment by moment. Your body is healing. Your mind is settling. May I be well, happy, skillful, and peaceful. Now let us share the same intentions with our family and friends. May my family and friends be well, happy, skillful, and peaceful. Be well, happy, skillful, and peaceful. the same intentions you have for yourself. May my family be well, happy, skillful, and peaceful. Let us include all the pets and animals. Just knowing you, you know that all human beings and animals, they want to live longer and be happy. Let us be the person who's sharing, who's supporting, to be well and to be happy, to live longer. Let us be the person who's not taking anyone's happiness away, either directly or indirectly. Let us be the person who's promoting it. May all pets and animals be well, happy, skillful, and peaceful. May no harm come to them. May no difficulties come to them. May no obstacles come to them. May all the pets and animals be well, happy, skillful, and peaceful. Now let us open our heart wider. Let us include all other living beings, including you, your family, your friends, people you know and you do not know, all the pets, animals, visible and invisible beings. May all living beings be well, happy, skillful, and peaceful. May all living beings be well, happy, skillful, and peaceful. Feel it. Let us open our heart. Let us continuously cultivate this unconditional love within, with each breath. May all living beings be well, be well, be well. Let those two words repeat in our heart with boundless love. Be well, be well, be well. Feel it. Take a deep breath. Let your body relax. Open your eyes mindfully. Okay. So I think now it is time to have our special guest, and Katie will guide through that.
Yeah, thank you so much for leading us in meditation, Bhante. I look forward to it every month. And uh, special thanks to Allan for being here this morning with us. Allan Kornberg is our board treasurer. He has an extensive background in medicine and vegan nutrition, so we're really lucky to have him with us this morning and in general on the board of DBA. So Allan is an MD, worked in pediatrics, and is the founder, which provides support community tools and education materials on healthy plant-based nutrition for pediatrics and other pediatric clinicians and families. I missed a word there, but additionally, Allan has served as executive director and now is a board member with Physicians Association for Nutrition, a global NGO determined to reduce and aspirationally eliminate diet-related morbidity and mortality. And I just want to add, as a little disclaimer for the day, Allan has, this great background, is an MD, but is not here to provide and cannot provide any medical advice or any solutions to specific medical problems. He is here today just to answer some general questions related to vegan nutrition. So thank you so much for being with us, Allan. I don't know if you want to say a few words.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. It's great to be here, Bhante. Thank you for the meditation session. As well. It's always anchoring for me and Katie. Thank you. So yeah, so I'm happy to do what I can to be helpful around a set of general questions around plant-based nutrition, and we'll try and stay focused on that and try to leave as much time as possible for as many questions. So, but do if you ask me a question and I didn't quite hit the nail on the head, feel free to follow up and redirect and so on. But as Katie said, I'm not somebody once has thought of, well, I went to my doctor and she said I really shouldn't do this, and I thought I should. Obviously I can't get into that. So anyhow, let's take it away, Katie. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll open the chat for questions. You can also raise your hand as Sandy just did. So, Sandy, you can be the first one to take it away. Start us off with a question if you'd like.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Okay. My question is, I have a specific question that applies to me, but it's a general question. What it has to do with is sarcopenia. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, sure. In general, yeah.
Okay. And the question is that I'm very old. I'm 82, and I noticed a few years ago that I was getting atrophy of the muscles in my arms in particular. And recently, I started reading up on creatine, and I'm wondering whether you have any suggestions about creatine or in general how to address this problem.
Yeah, no, happy to. And again, as Katie said, I'm a pediatrician. I have so any pediatric questions, you're probably a couple of years past my practicing. But as am I, I'm 72. But I do have a good general sense around general medicine and plant-based nutrition, so I can take those sorts of questions. So I would say a few. I would also maybe to say the last thing first. I take creatine. So, which doesn't mean that it's the right thing for everybody, but I started taking it a couple of years ago. So for musculoskeletal health, as in most things, it's a lifetime journey, right? And so, but I've been behaving better the last 20, 25 years than when I was, 25 years old. And so that's true for many of us. And so the earlier one does the right things, the better, around muscle health, but also bone health. So there's the key nutrients, right? There's enough protein, there's calcium and vitamin D, and those will matter. On creatine, so creatine is a nutrient that our body makes, and it's critical for muscle, and it comes from muscle. And so vegans tend to have less dietary creatine than people eating an omnivorous diet. It's easier to get. So there's some nutrients that we can all get, no problem, no sweat. And there are some that are critical for vegans, like B12 being the obvious one, right? Creatine is sort of kind of in the middle. We get some creatine in a plant-based diet. Our body makes some creatine. But if one were to eat a slice of steak, which I'm not advocating on ethical or nutritional grounds, one gets a bigger dose of creatine. And so it's probably a plus, and I'm trying to be careful to the guidance that I ask Katie to give that on my behalf, that I should be responding to myself. I don't want to be giving specific advice to anyone here, but I do think, especially as we age, and also for those of us that are younger or middle-aged and are, big time athletes or bodybuilders and so on, taking creatine is probably not a bad idea. 3 to 5 grams a day. I take 3 grams a day. Which is 4 capsules from what I get. So sort of a definite, maybe, but I think it's probably not a bad idea, is how I would answer that. Did that help some?
Yeah, one thing that I did find is that creatine does not directly reverse atrophy, but it enables you to have the stamina to do more exercise. And
Yes.
it's the exercise that actually reverses the atrophy.
Yes. Well said. Yes, thank you. Well said.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think next we can hop to Stephanie.
Hi.
Hi, Stephanie.
How are you?
Good. Yourself?
I'm doing good. I have a question about omega-3 supplementation. Do you know of any evidence that would strongly support the need for supplementation versus just getting it from ground chia or flax seeds?
Yeah, it's another, it's a similar, sorry, was that your question? I didn't mean to interrupt it.
Yeah, that was my question. I've been researching it for a while, and I didn't know you were going to be on today talking about this, but this has been on my mind.
Yeah, no, it's in some ways it's a parallel answer to creatine. Obviously it's a very different item, and it matters especially for brain health, but not entirely. It has some benefits in cardiovascular health as well. The last time Neil Bernard, who many of you probably know of, at PCRM,
Yeah.
his last time I heard him speak about it, his response was sort of kind of like what I'm going to say. I'm sorry for these wishy-washy answers here today, but a lot of nutrition is not, like physics in a laboratory. It's eating a whole diet and everything we eat. So a lot of these answers are nuanced. Neil's response, which is mine, was, it's probably not a bad idea to take supplements. We're not really sure, but it probably almost for sure won't hurt you. It may very well help. The vegan diets, like you said, from nuts and seeds especially. And so for me this morning I had oatmeal, and I had chia and walnuts, and berries thrown into my oatmeal a good amount. And so I probably got a decent dose myself this morning to start the day. I'm in Boston, not California, so it's I'm afternoon time here. I think that there aren't really solid randomized controlled trials here, and it's very tough to study this well. My gestalt is similar to Neil's, which is on balance, because it's a little harder on a plant-based diet, absent seafood. It's probably not a bad idea, but definitely not critical, definitely not essential. And if you are routinely eating enough of the omega-3 high foods, nuts and seeds especially, some others, then you don't need to do that. So, sorry if that isn't like yay or nay, but that's the science as we understand it.
Okay, thank you.
I want to turn quickly to a question we had submitted via email that relates. Anna was wondering if there are other supplements or specific types of food that are helpful for brain health besides B12 and omega-3s. We all know are the big ones. I don't know, Alan, if you know of any other specific foods or supplements that can help us protect our brains.
Talk about a few. I mean, it's really so which is not what you asked me, but since you mentioned B12, I can't help but to get in my high horse here and say, vegan, everybody's got to think about B12. If you're over 50 and you're eating, half a cow a day, if you'll pardon the bad metaphor, you still may have poor B12 absorption. But certainly for vegans of any age, you really need to get B12, and the easiest way to get B12 is to take a supplement or take a multivitamin. One can also, Bragg's nutritional yeast. I will get to your question, but I have to do my speech on B12 every time I give it. Bragg's nutritional yeast has all the B vitamins, including B12. It's fortified. It doesn't come from the nutritional yeast. So those people that get, sorry for my physician bias here, but sort of get religious, not really religious, but get, I don't want to have any supplements. Well, when you eat nutritional yeast, it's fortified. So anyhow, B12 is important, and omega-3 is important. The brain, conceptually, the easiest way to think about brain health is pretty much like thinking about heart health. So there's three or four important. There's really three key legs on this stool, right? So there's the kinds of things you've talked about, omega-3 and B12 for everybody, and so on. There's cardiovascular health. So many people that have strokes, I mean, a stroke is a vascular event, and so it's from having a very scientific term, but gunk in the arteries, and that goes through the entire body, but including the brain. So eating an anti-inflammatory, low saturated fat, healthy, plant forward, or for many of us, a vegan diet, is very protective of the brain because it protects the vasculature. The other place where we're protective, and these are more general health kinds of guidelines than specific, like omega, so there's the anti-inflammatory kinds of things, the saturated fat and cholesterol, and then there's good, you all know this, but so you probably all can give these talks as well as I can, but there's good glucose metabolism. So if you're eating a lot of refined sugars, maybe vegan, but it's crap, and your glucose and insulin are bouncing around like crazy, that's bad for brain health as well. So it's really mostly the brain health nutrition is really parallel to cardiovascular nutrition. Is I think the easiest way to think about it.
Awesome, thank you. Next up is Fraser.
Thanks, Katie. Hi, Alan.
Hey,
I jumped in when you said you were a pediatrician. Love to hear your thoughts about supplements for vegan children or any other things to think about with health.
Or during pregnancy.
Or during pregnancy. And a second question is, I would have thought that being vegans, especially vegan kids, they wouldn't get constipated. So if you have any thoughts about constipation in vegan kids, that's been an issue for us.
Yeah, no, constipation is less common in vegan kids, but there's a lot of this. So I will get back to what you asked, but I get asked a lot, as a dear friend of mine who's been eating a vegan diet for like 30 years, and she got a pretty bad disease recently. And she said to me, well, how'd that happen? I've been eating a vegan diet. And the vegan diets for what she has probably reduces the likelihood of her disease by about 40%, which is pretty big time, right? But on a population basis, that's huge. On a health cost basis, that's huge. On an individual person, you still had a 0.6 chance compared to somebody eating omnivorous diet to get that disease. So that's true for many things, including constipation. For constipation, fiber is what matters. That's super key, and it's really we'll get to supplements in a minute because I'm trying not to do like an hour talk on pediatric nutrition here, which I could do. But one of the things that one has to think about. So fiber is really important, and a great reason when we talk about the benefits of plant-based diets for children, fiber, and for adults. Fiber comes up all the time. When you're a pediatrician, you get asked questions all the time about constipation. If you could turn that off, it would make your professional life easier. The balance, and it's also a really good way when one is trying to advocate for vegan diets with people that don't want to think about the ethics. Talking about fiber is a really great entree because everybody thinks fiber is great because it is. And it doesn't get into the broader issues that we care about, or most of us care about. Challenge with young children and fiber. The first, so past the first year of life, second, third year of life, especially, the caloric requirements, per kilo, per size of the person, are really, really high. And fiber is filling. And so one has to be a little bit careful about how much fiber a young child is getting, because they have to get enough calories and protein. So there's some nuance early in life about fiber. On supplements, aside from B12 and D, since even if you're living in Southern California, not Boston, the amount of sunlight that 18-month-old is getting is pretty low, right? So B12 and D matter. Iron is a huge issue in pediatrics, especially in the second, third year of life, and it's a place where many pediatricians who aren't like hyper critical of vegan diets, but get anxious about it and will say things like, yeah, it's okay, but give the kid a little bit of meat so I don't have to worry about it. We'll start with iron. And so getting enough iron is useful. You can get that, as you know, from iron fortified cereals. And then there's all the foods that we all eat for iron, work for kids too. Easy to get little kids to eat, easy to get older infants to eat vegetables. It's a little bit harder in the second year of life. Most pediatricians will check an iron level, do a CBC or check an iron level, at routine visits. But that's what I think matters in general for pregnant women, which is a somewhat different space, but, getting enough calcium, getting enough protein, taking a prenatal multivitamin, I think is the right thing to do for most people. Can one get away with not taking a multivitamin? Yeah, but it's hard. And it's not as if a vegan diet is magic. There's some things easier, some things harder to get. Let me stop at that point, because that was a little bit of a fire hose kind of answer.
That
was great. Thank you.
Perfect. I'm going to popcorn to the chat really quickly. Lisa, I will get to your question, but this does relate to Lori and Tony's question. If a vegan is anemic, what is the most absorbable form for iron, or what suggestions do you have? Since we were just talking about iron, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, right. So you start with diet. So different people have different iron requirements, right? So women from 12 or 14 to 45 or so will have higher iron requirements. Little kids have higher iron requirements. We all know the foods. It's greens and beans and legumes that are especially useful. It gets a little bit complicated because calcium can interfere in iron absorption. Spinach has a lot of iron, but it's not well absorbed, so it gets a sort of kind of messy. For a supplement, iron gluconate is probably a good one. In general, two more comments about iron. Vitamin C is super efficient at enhancing iron absorption. So if you take a shot of orange juice, or just take a 250 milligram vitamin C pill when you're taking your iron supplement or eating iron dense foods, that will substantially increase your iron absorption. It's also Michael Greger, again, most of you know of Michael Greger and his work, as well, nutrition facts. His most recent, last week or two, he's had a series of videos about like iron's good, but too much is bad. And we've known that for a while. It's not talked about much amongst most quote unquote adult physicians, internists, and family docs. Too much iron increases the risk of a number of cancers. It also can be inflammatory. So one wants to get enough iron to have a normal CBC, a normal hemoglobin hematocrit. Ferritin, which you may have seen on your own blood test, is a measure of sort of total body iron. And it's probably best to have your ferritin level in the low normal range, not the high normal range in terms of total overall health. So, a little bit's good, but too much isn't.
Great. Thank you. Let's go to Lisa's question in the chat, and then we'll pop over to Jean and Carl. So Lisa wants to know, are there any types of plant-based foods that have shown to help with increasing energy at the mitochondrial level?
I don't know the answer to that question. I really don't. That's a really. I will learn the answer later today or tomorrow, Monday. But that's a great. I don't know. Sorry.
Okay. We'll get back to you on that one, Lisa.
Okay,
No
we will.
problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jean and Carl.
Hi. I have a question about calcium.
Mhm.
Our family's vegan, and my daughter is worried about my granddaughter's intake of calcium. And when she looks at the recommended amount, it's really high, and she doesn't think her kids are getting enough, so she gets calcium fortified orange juice, but her daughter has some issues with teeth not coming in very well. The appearance is not good, and she was relating that to calcium, and I don't know if you have suggestions about how she could get more calcium.
Yeah. So those again with Katie's exclusion about not giving specific medical advice here, but in general, calcium intake in a child and how teeth are erupting or any dental issues are not the same thing. So calcium. So I would be, absent a really unusual situation, I would be surprised if her calcium intake is related at all to any dental issues that she's having right now that you're describing. In general, so calcium is really a lifelong um, um, issue and goal for us. So for adults, right, the recommendations are usually 1,000 to 1,200 milligrams a day. It's pretty. So for adults first, it's pretty hard. It's another one of those nutrients that is somewhat easier to get on an omnivorous diet than a vegan diet. It's not impossible at all to get enough calcium on a purely vegan diet, but it's a little bit harder. And so I think the right thing to do for many people, children and adults who are vegan, is to as your family member is doing there, is to not be allergic. I don't mean medically, I mean psychologically allergic to taking some supplements or fortified foods. The easiest way for most of us to get, a little more calcium during the day is to have at least one, maybe two glasses of calcium fortified plant-based milk. And it's worth, I'm going to say a word about plant-based milks in a minute, because I think that's an important subject. So I think that's a good thing for most of us to do. I start my day most days with cereal or oatmeal and 8 to 12 ounces of a plant-based milk. When one looks at when one is buying, so also for calcium, right? Vitamin D matters. Vitamin D. If you live in San Diego and you're wearing shorts and a tee every day of the year, then you don't have to worry about vitamin D. But if you're doing that with your 2-year-old, then that's bad too, right? So for kids, for adults living in northern climates, you got to get D, and you have to get enough protein also. And then the other piece, which is not what we would think with a 2-year-old, but with any of us, and you all know this, is weight bearing. You need to do resistance exercise and weight bearing exercise. In general, women have a somewhat higher risk than men, but men have a risk too as we get older. And so, walking, jogging, hitting the gym. Over a lifetime, it really matters. My last comment about milk then. So when you're buying plant-based milk, there's a few things to look for because protein matters and vegans have a little more. And again, I keep talking about things where vegans have more trouble than people on an omnivorous diet. There are a bunch of things where vegans do much better than omnivorous diets. So I just, each diet has its pluses and minuses. Vegan diets in general are healthier, and there are things to think about and consider. So when you're buying milk, plant-based milk, it's a good thing if it has protein in it, because we want to get enough protein. And so soy, flax, and pea milk have protein, at least as much, if not more, than cow's milk. The others don't. Like oat milk may taste great, but it has almost no protein. So you want protein, you want calcium. You don't want added sugar. And those, I mean, I think you just want to look at the look at the box, look at the bottle, and just make sure that those things are true as you're buying milk. I've been trying to behave and have Katie curate all the questions for me, because I get off track too much when I do that myself. But I just saw pop up something about too much calcium and stroke. Was that so? Yeah, so too much calcium is not good. So right, so the vegans have much more challenge with not getting enough calcium than getting too much calcium. So that's true on a population basis. But getting too much calcium can cause vascular disease, which is, and again, brain health is in significant part based upon cardiovascular health. So too much calcium is not a good idea. So don't go crazy, overdo it. For your average vegan, the issue is probably more around not getting enough than getting too much in general.
Thank you, Alan. Sandy, do you have another question?
Do you want to let Jeremy go first? Because I already had a comment. I just have a couple of brief comments. Go ahead, Jeremy, if you don't mind.
Thank you. So I have another non-pediatric question.
Yeah.
Recently, a number of the organizations concerned with cardiovascular health dramatically reduced the acceptable level of LDL, so that a lot of us vegans who previously thought, oh, everything's fine, now find that statins are being recommended. So obviously, I know you can't give individual advice, but I wonder if you have a general opinion about statin for vegans to lower LDL levels.
Yeah. No, I have a lot of opinions about that. So yeah. So I think it also matters if one is 18 or 30 or 60 or 80. So it matters where one is on the age spectrum there. It is, if someone is already at cardiac risk, so somebody on a plant-based diet, right? Somebody on a plant-based diet, say a middle-aged person, and for whatever reason has had an MRI scan of their coronaries, or had an echo, or some of the other diagnostic tools that are used in cardiology, or as simply just that their internist simply just had a cardiometabolic screen, including lipid screen, right? So without fancy studies, and of course somebody who's already had cardiac events. Statins are more aggressive, more efficient at reducing LDL than a vegan diet. So I sometimes, and I had a conversation with one of the world's most renowned plant-based dietitians, who when asked this question, gave the answer, well, wouldn't you rather, eat a healthy diet than take a pill? And yeah, but if your LDL is a simpler example, probably the average cholesterol level, just pure cholesterol level, in the United States is about 200. So if my cholesterol level is, mine's at 130, 140, but if my cholesterol level was 195, is that good? Well, it's a little better than average, but the average person in America gets heart disease. So, and we don't think that those lower LDLs are deleterious in other ways. So I'm not saying that. Some cardiologists sort of half out loud think about maybe everybody should be on a statin because the risk profile of statins has gotten pretty darn low. I'm not saying that, and that's above my pay grade in any event. I do think that for people, vegan diets or otherwise, whose LDLs are like pretty good but not great, and by not great I mean not having a heart attack or microvascular disease. Statins are an effective drug with a low risk profile, and most of the risk is easy to monitor with, liver and kidney function tests and so on. So I think statins have a major place. I don't think everybody should be on statins, but I don't think that, oh my God, I'm crunching granola and I don't ever want to take a pill my whole life. Well, there's a balance in life here, and it's kind of like B12. No, that's a bad example. That's a bad example. It's for some good number of people, the risk profile of taking a statin is better than not. And if you don't have heart disease clinically, and your LDL profile is, borderline kind of range, and you're a middle-aged person, it's a thoughtful conversation to have with your internist or cardiologist.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. We'll go to Sandy, and then afterwards, I know Carlos has a question as well.
Yes, I had a couple of, let me just put my hand down. I had comments in connection with what other people said, and so I'll just go through those. The first one is about flax for omega-3. And that is that, as I understand it, the omega-3 in flax is inaccessible, so it's not really a source to rely on. So fish oil or krill oil is probably a better bet, even though it's not vegan. The second is about fiber and constipation. I have found that broccoli, more than anything, gives me beautiful stools. It's just it's like almost like a wonder drug. So I eat broccoli almost every day, and it basically takes care of any constipation issues. For protein, for vegans, lentils is a very good source of protein. It's an extraordinary source of protein, and if you buy a can of lentils, it's very bland. But I found that Amy's soups, in the low salt version, Amy's lentil soup is very helpful.
Yeah, let me know. I appreciate all that. Let me try to, you raised a few different issues there. So let me try to. I grew up in Brooklyn, so let me try and answer them in a New York. I live outside Boston now. In a New York minute here, because we'll get short on time here. So it's in part true what you say about flax. It's not all or nothing, but flax is there's some difficulties in digesting flax. So for example, chia is easier to digest than flax in general. But it's what you say about broccoli. Broccoli is a wonder food. But everybody has their own, everybody's different, but broccoli is crazy, super healthy. And I'm not surprised that you found it beneficial in terms of, your own GI motility. Legumes, for protein, for most of us, soy, tempeh, and legumes, especially, beans, lentils, peas as well. They're all really good. So, they're all to be recommended. And they're a great way to get enough protein. You just need to eat enough. I would also, the thing about sodium also, this is not an issue for vegans. I think vegans probably get a little, well, it's hard to say because there's so much depends on what's eating. But so that sodium is just bad. It's another one of those things that in moderation, right? There's a reason why there are salt licks out there. The reason why salt was almost like a currency in oldie-timey days, like 3,000 to 5,000 BCE kind of days. But now the issue in any somewhat any global north or mid-level income country. Is too much sodium not enough? Sodium and hypertension are amongst the biggest killers globally, far and away. So keeping one's sodium low is a good idea. And prepared foods is like soup is a good or a bad example of a way to get too much sodium. Rule of thumb on sodium: if the average person should eat around 2,300 calories a day, that's very ballpark, and the average person should get no more than 2,300 milligrams of sodium a day. If you're eating a food that has more milligrams of sodium than calories, that food is high in sodium. Probably being under 1,500 is even healthier milligrams. That's really hard to do. And so, and of course, if one has hypertension, cardiovascular disease, talk to your doctor about that. Okay, there was another question coming up.
Well, I just have one other point.
All right.
It's about statins. That my doctor put me on statins a few months ago, and she also put me on low-dose aspirin, so that if the statins cause plaque to break away, the low-dose aspirin would reduce the risk of stroke. So I just wanted to finally mention that.
Yeah, no, that's between you and your cardiologist. But this being on statin and baby aspirin is a very, very common sort of thing. There's some trade-offs with baby aspirin, but for many people in general, it's the right thing to do. I'm sure it makes sense for you. So thank you for that. Yeah.
And I think we probably only have time for one more question. I know Carlos had one, but if anyone else has one and wants to put it in the chat, we can definitely get to them later on. And then one super quick thought about the omega-3s that Sandy brought up. I take an algae supplement for my omega-3s. So that's like a great alternative to,
Thank
fish.
you. Yeah, that's what I do too. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, take it away, Carlos.
Hi, everybody. I just had a physical a couple weeks ago and blood work, and for the most part, everything was pretty normal, except
Good.
I had a slightly elevated LDL cholesterol.
Yeah.
And also, the only other thing was my vitamin D was low, which is surprising because I'm always in the sun. I lived in California and Hawaii most of my life, so I'm always out there. So I'm surprised on the vitamin D. The LDL, because I just speak with the doctor after I got the results back just to get an idea of some of this. But it's weird because he said it's slightly elevated and saying stuff about having a healthier diet, and I'm like, I've been vegan for 24 years, and you don't eat much healthier than that. Although I probably have too much of not too much, but a little bit more of that, the soy products like tofurkey than I hate to admit. But for the most part, I'm pretty clean, and I eat raw most of the time, but I do like my sauces, and I do like some cooked food. So it's funny because you mentioned my two things just in the last couple of people speaking here, the vitamin D and the LDL.
Yeah, let me say a few words of thank you for that. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you. I'm really not sure what to say about the vitamin D, so I will leave. So I'm not. That's in general a little surprising. So that's between you and your doc, and if it's real low, it probably deserves an evaluation clinically. But in terms of LDL, so starting with amongst the most important things for any of us to do for our cardiovascular health is to choose our parents well, right? So we don't get to do that, but so genetics matters. I talk about, that's my metaphor for fundraising and for medical health, is choose your parents well. So genetics matters hugely here. One's, again, not specific medical advice, but as I said earlier, one's LDL being a little bit high, might not be problem for that person on a population basis. Cardiovascular disease is so common that that's a population concern. I'd make a general, I don't want to get into, we don't have time, and I wouldn't I'll get into what you're eating in particular, but one can eat a saturated fat is worse for LDL and cholesterol levels than dietary cholesterol. So one has to be very attentive to how much saturated fat, and then also how much refined sugars and so on one is getting. You may not be having much of that, but one needs to be on a vegan diet. One should just be careful about, especially coconut and palm. And so Indian food is like my favorite cuisine in the world, but it's like, unless I'm making it myself, in most restaurants, it's loaded with coconut, which is, and some people will say to me, I'm going off on a tangent here. Some people will say to me, well, it's vegan, it must be okay. Well, no, saturated fat is saturated fat. It gunks up your arteries. So, just be attentive to saturated fat, be attentive to refined sugars, and that's as much as I could say in a general kind of sense here.
Well, for the vitamin D, he made a prescription to get 50,000 units of vitamin D a week, one pill. But for the LDL, he was suggesting, and I hate taking any kind of drugs. He suggested a daily Lipitor for 6 months. I mean,
I'm not sorry. I'm really, in terms, as Katie said, I can't really, but I would just make the general observation that, like me, and I got to be 70 years old without taking any pills. And then at 70, I started getting a couple of cardiovascular drugs. And so it's, life is full of trade-offs. Many doctors overprescribe medications. Many vegans undertake what we should be taking because we think we don't need it because we're eating a vegan diet that's healthy. 50,000 milligrams of D says to me that any doctor prescribing that thinks somebody's pretty low. So I would, if you trust your doctor, and I've heard nothing at all so far to suggest anything to the contrary, I would give some credence to engaging with your clinician.
Thank you, Allan. I know we only have a minute left. I don't know if you want to leave us with some last words, and then if you're able to hang on an extra minute or two, we could answer Stephanie's question. So maybe if you have any final thoughts or last words to leave us with, and then anyone who's able to, if you are able to stick around next week.
I'm happy to stay on, Stephanie. I'm happy to take your question. Anyone else who wants to stay and has some more questions. Yeah, I mean, I think you got my general gestalt, which is that vegan diets, plant-based diets, are in general healthier than omnivorous diets for human beings, and obviously for animals and for the planet as well, which is not today's topic, but where we come from. That there are a number of factors in vegan diets that one needs to be attentive to, and we've talked about a lot of that, and that having an absolutist approach, well, I'm vegan, it must be healthy, I can't have any problems, I don't ever need to pay attention to supplements or doctors, that's not the smartest place to be in the world either. So life is full of balance, and vegan diets in general are healthy. I would also have to add, which we didn't really talk about, but that Mediterranean-ish kinds of diets, Mind diet, DASH diet, those diets, while that involves eating some animals, which is not what we are about here for ethical reasons, from a human health point of view, they're probably about as healthy as a straight up vegan diet. But eating a typical standard American diet, a SAD diet, with all that saturated fat and the rest, is clearly less healthy than a vegan or plant-based diet. So thank you for the opportunity here, and I'm happy to stick around and take some more questions anybody wants to.
Thank you so much, Allan, and thank you all for being here. And Stephanie, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Well, you were talking earlier about salt and added salt. Well, for the last 2 years, I've done 100% salt free. And now I'm considering a new way of eating where I'm going to be drinking a lot of water. And it was recommended that I have at least a teaspoon of salt. So what do you think about salt free?
Well, you can't. I mean, you're by salt free, that means that you're not taking
no added salt. So no restaurant
salt.
food, no prepared food, just no added salt. So the sodium would come from the food, not from a salt shaker.
Right. No, I think in North America, in Europe, and much of the world, that's probably a much healthier diet than that's healthier. So I think that's a really good idea. A teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of salt has 2.3 grams, 2,300 milligrams exactly. So if somebody takes a teaspoon of salt, that's as much sodium as most physicians think people should take during 24 hours if they weren't eating any food. So that sounds like too much salt to me. That sounds like a lot. There is a theoretical concern about if one is drinking gallons and gallons of water to negatively affect your electrolyte balance. So that's also true for sodium chloride, it's true for potassium, it's true for some other ions as well. It just depends how much you're drinking. My broad-based health observation would be, and again, I'm not trying to dive too deep into. So I think not getting salt from prepared foods for most people is a good thing. I think that if you're drinking so much water that you have to supplement sodium, that's probably a lot of water, and I would be a little thoughtful and careful about that as well. But drinking, 6 to 8 glasses of water a day and eating a sort of kind of normal plant-based diet, it should be fine for most people who are otherwise in good health.
So it's a gallon of water plus a lot of vegetables and fruit, which obviously have liquid.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's all raw.
Yeah, you probably on a population basis, that's probably at the margins of being okay to pushing it, is what that sounds like to me.
As far as water, electrolyte.
As far as that much water in that little electrolyte, but yeah, but I mean you would I mean, the easy way to tell for a doc is to, get serum electrolytes. If somebody is starting to feel neurologic symptoms, that's too far along. So if someone is too tired or too confused or anything like that, then that's, which there's 1,000,001 causes for that. But if it's based on hyponatremia, sodium levels dropping, then that's a serious problem. So that's the diet you're describing is one that's atypical. Some people swear by it. It just deserves being a little thoughtful and careful about that. That's probably as much as I can say right now.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Great. Thank you, Alan. I don't know, do you want to stick around a little longer or?
Yeah, no, I'm good. But anyone who is leaving, I'm not offended. So because we're past time, but I'm happy to stay for as long as, I'm good. So yeah.
Okay, maybe we'll do 2 more questions and that'll be it. We'll do Fraser, and then I know Sandra has a question. She's been trying to raise her hand. So that'll be that. Okay. So go ahead, Fraser.
Well, I wanted to ask about joint health, but Sandra had her question about collagen. So I think maybe she should go first, and maybe my question will get answered.
Okay, that sounds fair. Sandra, do you want to speak up about collagen?
Thanks, Fraser. And it might all tie in. I'm 76 and seeing the signs of what could be lack of collagen in my skin, crepey skin, wrinkles. And I'm like, okay, that's age, but is it a lack of collagen in a vegan diet? And collagen is joint health, whatever. It does a lot. And I've been told by herbalists and health food people that my problem is that I don't eat meat. And so your skin is going to sag and whatever internally is happening. So are we getting collagen? Are we getting enough? How do we do it on a vegan diet?
That's a really good question. So let me try to take that in a few pieces. So again, there's the other, so making no comments about anyone's skin or complexion, and from a distance here, you look like you're in pretty good shape here to me. So, but we all our bodies all change as we get older, so we all know that. Calcium and protein, and vitamin D matter as well. And so not to channel the Health and Human Services Secretary, who most pediatricians are not a fan of, based on his perspective around vaccines and some other issues, right? But he's probably overcalling the criticality of huge amounts of protein. He's probably making a valid point to some extent that we need to get enough protein per day. So collagen, when we eat protein, so our body makes collagen. when we eat protein, which are multi-chain amino acid compounds, right? The GI tract breaks the proteins down, these long chain proteins, into individual amino acids and sometimes very small peptides, 3 or 4 chain amino acids. Sorry for the biochemistry, but many of you probably have a sense about what I'm talking about. So when you eat, and then the body absorbs the amino acids or the very small chain peptides, none of which is collagen. So it's protein. So then our body makes collagen. So when you eat collagen, or not us, but when one eats collagen, it's not absorbed as collagen. So there's nothing magical at all about eating collagen. There's something magical about getting enough protein. There's a couple of studies that aren't really great studies, and they're industry supported. And so that suggests that eating a lot of collagen might have a minimal benefit around the issues you're describing. A number of other studies say that's not true. Nutrition science is tough. In general, there's no compelling evidence, not even any good evidence, that eating collagen is useful. There's lots of evidence that eating protein is useful, and the body breaks the protein down to amino acids, absorbs it, and then makes collagen. So that's really what matters. Did I get to you? I think I answered your question.
I think what you're saying is make sure you get enough protein, and don't believe the health food person who said you've got to buy this bone broth or this bone-based collagen. You're saying those don't really do anything.
Yes, no, thank you. Yes, I should have had you summarize my comments earlier. We could have gotten a lot quicker here. Just what you said, and so yeah, that's just the 21st version, 21st century version of like snake oil stuff. So yes, absolutely, yes, what you said.
Okay, thank you.
And then I don't know, Fraser, if you still have some lingering thoughts on joint health at all.
Thanks, Katie. I am curious if there are any amino acids that we should try and focus on to be able to make collagen, or any foods that are good to synthesize collagen. And then if you have any other thoughts about joint health. I've had issues with my shoulders and knees, and feels like I'm too young for that. So I wonder if maybe I'm missing something dietarily.
Yeah, well, I don't know about if you're, lots of people get joint problems at a fairly young age based upon bad luck, athletics, genetics, lots of things unrelated to nutrition. So it's probably amongst the most important things I can say, except for make sure you get B12 and enough protein and D, is that in those of us, we all benefit by living in this rich country, a rich part of the world where we get a mix of protein sources. So the only folks in the world who have to worry about amino acids are if someone is subsisting on mostly a unigrain diet, which is a problem, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. If somebody's getting 80-90% of their calories from corn, for example, they're not getting enough lysine, which is not an issue so much around collagen, but it's a major issue around health. If you just eat a whole bunch of different stuff in the US or other countries like the US, even if it's not an especially healthy vegan diet, but I'm not saying it shouldn't be, you're getting all the amino acids, right? So there are 20 amino acids, 9 or 10 of them are essential, means the body can't make them. The others our body can make. When people look at collagen, they say glycine, one of the 20 amino acids, which, is especially high in collagen. So what? We get plenty of glycine. So the short answer is there are no issues. You just eat a few different kinds of food, and if you get enough protein, you are getting enough of all of the amino acids. Period. End of discussion. On joint health, it's a broad subject, and many issues beyond nutrition. There's a number of studies, which isn't really what you're asking, but just to mention this one, number of studies that show that for rheumatoid arthritis, a specific clinical disease, which is an autoimmune disease, that people that eat a plant-based diet have much less rheumatoid arthritis and fewer autoimmune diseases in general. There's one study out of the Netherlands in the last 2 or 3 years that showed that for osteoarthritis, which I'm guessing is probably more what you're talking about, just my joints don't feel so great anymore and they're starting to rub against each other. Osteoarthritis, the sort of typical joint disease that most of us get as we age, is probably about 10 times more common than rheumatoid arthritis. And that's use or overuse disorder or aging disorder. There's one study out of the Netherlands showing that people that eat a plant-based diet get less osteoarthritis than people that don't. The study also had some other lifestyle interventions, so it's hard to really hang your hat on that. But there's no compelling evidence at all that anything so plant-based diets around joint health, from all that we know, are at worst neutral and probably somewhat healthier, but not a panacea.
Thanks.
Surely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Allan, for answering everyone's questions. And thank you all for being here, for sticking around a little late. If there are other lingering questions, please feel free to email them to us. Not to volunteer Allan up for more.
No, I'm happy to. I already need to look up mitochondrial energy use in plant-based diet. So I'm happy to. If there's some more questions offline, I'm happy to answer them. Quite happy to. No issue at all.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you all so much for being here. I think we'll let you all go and enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and hope to see you all in April and maybe before that.
Hey, thanks everybody. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you all. Thank you, Allan. Take care.
Thanks, Allan. Thanks, Katie.
Bye. Thank you.